You wake up needing to go. There's no hallway to walk down, no door to close behind you, no porcelain bowl waiting in a tile little room, no roll of paper hanging on the wall, no flush, no lock, no privacy at all. So where do you even go? For roughly 300,000 years, this wasn't a hypothetical. This was every single morning for every single person who ever lived before indoor plumbing existed. Today, the average person spends close to 3 months of their entire life sitting on a toilet. 3 months behind a locked door, plumbed into walls, flushed away in seconds and never thought about again. For almost all of human history, none of that existed. No toilet, no paper, no flush. Just you, the open ground, and whoever happened to be nearby. So how did it actually work? Start with the obvious problem. Hunter-gatherer groups didn't stay in one place for long. They followed the seasons, the animals, the water. That meant there was no permanent latrine, no single spot building up waste for generations. Most groups simply walked a short distance from camp, did what needed doing, and moved on with their day. No ceremony, no embarrassment, just function. But simple doesn't mean undocumented. We actually know a surprising amount about this. And the evidence comes from something most people would rather not think about at all: fossilized human waste. Scientists call it a coprolite. That's just the technical word for preserved feces, hardened over thousands of years into something closer to stone than waste. It sounds unpleasant. It's actually one of the richest sources of information archaeology has ever found. Karl Reinhardt, a pioneer in a field called paleoparasitology, which is simply the study of ancient parasites, has spent decades pulling coprolites out of caves and rock shelters around the world. Inside them, he and his colleagues find seeds, pollen, tiny animal bones, and parasite eggs, all sealed in place since the moment they were left behind. Every coprolite is, in a strange way, a tiny time capsule of someone's final few meals. At Paisley Caves in Oregon, archaeologists uncovered coprolites dated to roughly 14,000 years old, among the oldest confirmed human waste ever found anywhere in the Americas. DNA pulled from inside it helped prove people were living in North America earlier than most scientists had assumed. Think about that for a second. Something almost everyone would call disgusting ended up rewriting the timeline of how an entire continent was settled. And the evidence doesn't stop at modern humans. At a cave site called El Salt in Spain, researcher Ainara Sistiaga analyzed preserved waste left behind by Neanderthals roughly 50,000 years ago. Inside, she found chemical markers showing a mostly meat-based diet, but also clear traces of plants. Not just hunters chasing prey across the landscape, but opportunists, eating whatever the season offered. A pile of ancient waste, sealed in cave sediment for 50,000 years, told us more about what Neanderthals actually ate than centuries of guessing ever could. The method itself wasn't universal, either. It adapted to wherever people happened to live, shaped by climate, as much as by custom. In dry, sandy regions, sand and earth worked as a simple cleaning agent, scooped and discarded after use. Near rivers or coastlines, water did the job, the same way it still does in large parts of the world today. In colder northern climates, snow served the same purpose, numbing as much as it cleaned. There was no single ancient bathroom routine. There were dozens of them, each one shaped by climate, geography, and whatever materials happened to be lying around within reach. So we know where people went, how they adapted to where they lived, and what all of it cost them. Cambridge researcher Piers Mitchell has spent years tracing the history of parasites and sanitation, and his findings are blunt. For most of human history, intestinal worms were nearly universal. Roundworm, whipworm, tapeworm, without separation between waste and drinking water. Without any concept of germs, parasites spread easily from person to person, season after season. It wasn't an occasional misfortune. It was background noise. Almost everyone carried something, almost all the time, and almost nobody knew it. Even royalty wasn't exempt. Mitchell's research on later, settled populations found parasite eggs in latrines used by medieval nobility, proof that money and status bought comfort, but never bought immunity from biology. Now picture the actual moment. It's early morning at a small camp. The fire from the night before has burned down to embers, just a faint orange glow in the gray light. A woman steps quietly past the sleeping shapes of her family, walks a short distance into the brush, and crouches low to the ground, heels flat, knees pulled toward her chest. There are no walls and no privacy in the way you define it, just distance and habit standing in for both. A child stirs, watches her go, and understands without being told that this is simply what mornings include. She uses a handful of leaves, or grass, or nothing at all, then covers the spot with loose dirt out of pure instinct. The same instinct that keeps camps livable and disease at bay without anyone ever using the word hygiene. Then she walks back to the fire, as if nothing happened, because nothing did. This was simply how the day began. For her parents, and for every generation before them, stretching back further than written history can reach. And here's the part almost nobody expects. That crouching position, the one that feels primitive, the one humans have spent thousands of years engineering ourselves out of, may have actually been better for the body. In 2003, physician Dov Sikharov published a study comparing squatting against sitting during defecation. The results were clear. Squatting straightens the angle of the lower intestine, allowing for faster, more complete elimination with noticeably less strain. Sitting, the exact position almost every modern toilet forces on you, actually kinks that same passage slightly, which is part of why straining becomes so common once chairs and raised seats enter the picture. The supposedly primitive version wasn't a workaround at all. It was closer to optimal. Humans didn't abandon squatting because it was worse for the body. They abandoned it because raised seating became a status symbol among the wealthy, first in parts of ancient Europe, and eventually, as plumbing spread, the rest of the world followed without ever asking why. Here's the strange irony in all of this. The position your ancestors used by default, with nothing but open ground and bent knees, has spent the last 2 decades quietly creeping back into modern health advice. Footstools designed to mimic a squat are now sold specifically to put your body back into the angle it held for 300,000 years before furniture talked it out of the habit. So if your ancestors had no privacy, no paper, and no plumbing, but arguably better biomechanics, what does that say about you? Right now, you almost certainly have a door that locks, a comfortable seat, and paper within arm's reach. You also probably have a phone in your other hand, sitting there far longer than your body actually needs you to, scrolling through feeds while your ancestors would have been back at the fire in under a minute. Modern sanitation deserves real credit here. Clean water and proper waste separation rank among the greatest public health achievements humans have ever managed, and they have done more to extend human lifespan than almost any single medical breakthrough in history. Cholera, dysentery, and most of the parasites Piers Mitchell has spent his career cataloging have been pushed to the margins in places with modern plumbing, something no hunter-gatherer camp could ever have managed, no matter how carefully they chose where to dig. That part isn't up for debate, and it shouldn't be taken for granted. But somewhere between solving the parasite problem and designing the perfect bathroom, something about the original posture got lost along the way. We engineered away the threat and the solution at the same time, without realizing they weren't the same thing. Maybe next time, you change the angle. A footstool under your feet, knees lifted higher than your hips, your body doing exactly what it was built to do 300,000 years ago, crouched near a dying fire, leaves in hand, no door in sight. No idea that anyone, ever, would think to study it, let alone build an industry around recreating it. You still wake up needing to go. There's still no real privacy. Not from a notification, not from your own thoughts, not from the small, ordinary fact that your body still works exactly the way it always has. But this time, unlike every ancestor who came before you, you're the one who got to decide that's exactly how you wanted it.